Good evening, and welcome to the regularly scheduled Clawson City Council meeting of Tuesday, February 5th. This meeting is now called to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation by Minister Peter Brazel from Heritage Church of Christ. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lord God, we are especially thankful to be here tonight. I thank you, first of all, for all the people that serve on the council here, for their time, for their dedication, for their willingness to serve. I ask tonight that you give them godly wisdom and godly compassion and godly common sense as they make decisions and have discussions that affect all of us who live and serve and work in this community. Thank you, and we ask this blessing in your name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mayor Woolley.
Here.
Councilmember Aris. Councilmember Milan.
Here.
Councilmember Moffitt.
Here.
Councilmember Albrecht.
Here.
The first item on the agenda is a consideration of approving the following consent agenda. What's included on the consent agenda at this meeting is the minutes of the City Council Audit Workshop meeting that was held on Tuesday, January 15th, minutes of the regular scheduled City Council meeting held on Tuesday, January 15th, minutes of a special City Council meeting held on Tuesday, January 29th, approval of the fourth quarter vehicle allowance and phone reimbursement of $1,700 to Fire Marshal John Rothenbeck, 2009 coin operating amusement device distributor license renewals for the following businesses: Pro Vending of East Point, Michigan, Union Music Company of Harper Woods, Michigan, Universal Video from Brighton, Michigan. In addition, 2019 coin-operated amusement device exhibitor license renewals for the following businesses: Fabricare Cleaners and Coin Laundry, 107 North Main Street, Fraternal Order of Eagles, 174 Bowers, Moose Wisniewski's, 38 South Main Street, National Coney Island, 1331 West Maple Road, Old Detroit Burger Bar, 27 East 14 Mile Road, Renshaw Lounge, 210 East 14 Mile Road, Tavern on the Main, 235 South Main Street, The Hideout, 1110 West 14 Mile Road, The Laundry Palace, 140 South Main Street. In addition, 2019 dance entertainment license renewals for the following businesses: Black Lotus Brewing Company, 1 East 14 Mile Road, Clawson Steakhouse, 56 South Rochester Road, Fraternal Order of Eagles, 174 Bowers, Knights of Columbus, 870 North Main Street, Moose Wisniewski's, 38 South Main Street, Old Detroit Burger Bar, 27 East Main Street, East 14 Mile, Tavern on the Main, 235 South Main Street, The Hideout, 1110 West 14 Mile Road, Three Cats Cafe, 116 West 14 Mile Road, and Zioli's Restaurant, 110 East 14 Mile Road.
Madam Mayor, I move the consent agendas be approved as listed.
Support.
Were there any questions or discussions regarding the items? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Milan.
Yes.
Councilmember Moffitt.
Yes.
Councilmember Albrecht.
Yes.
Mayor Woolley.
Yes. And the ayes have it, and the motion carries. Mr. Kingsept will not be in attendance this evening. Therefore, the attorney report regarding the chicken ordinance update will not occur. However, I would like the public to be able to share any comments at this time. Therefore, I would like to amend the agenda to add public comment at this time regarding the chicken ordinance. Is that enough, Mr. Smith, or do we need a
Motion or
motion to
support?
amend it.
Do we need a motion? Madam Mayor, I move that we open the floor for public comment on the chicken ordinance at this time.
Support.
roll call, please?
Councilmember Moffitt.
Yes.
Councilmember Albrecht.
Yes.
Mayor Woolley.
Yes.
And Councilmember Milan.
Yes.
The floor is now open for discussion and comments regarding the chicken ordinance. Please state your name and your address, please.
Good evening. My name's Maria Tyra, 708 Drian Drive. I sent some emails out, and I heard back from the city attorney, which was very nice, and a few of you others as well. Thank you very much for that. I only had a couple concerns, and if I read his response to me correctly, I think he said he was adjusting the things that I was concerned about, but I'm not sure, so I'm just going to restate them. I'm kind of concerned that the restrictiveness of the building aspect of the coops might be too much, because some people build their coops and some people buy their coops. And I would hate to see something in the ordinance that says you have to have this much space and this long and this tall and this wide, and not have it take into account the different variances in the coops that are on the market, et cetera. So I don't know, like I said, I couldn't garner from the December 18th agenda where the wording was what those particulars were, but I just wanted to make it known that I thought there needs to be some play in there to allow for variances in coops, because you can have a coop that is attached to, like in my case, mine's sort of half in my garage and half out of my garage, but there are coops that they put out that move around so that your chickens get access to grass, in different areas of your yard. And so I just wanted to make sure you guys took that kind of stuff into consideration. And the other part that was rather bothersome to me was the background information. And I don't know if that referred to you wanted to check us out to make sure, we weren't felons with chickens, or if there was something else that meant. But I thought, well, that's kind of intrusive for just chicken owning. I mean, currently, I don't know for sure, but currently in a lot of places, you don't even have to have a background check to own a gun. So to own a chicken to get a background check was kind of, odd for me. So I'm just worried about those kinds of things, and we're not overly restrictive in this. And the last thing, and I didn't really put this in the email, was that when we were here on the 18th, listening to I believe it was the new code officer. I'm not sure if talking about throwing the food on the ground. Some of his comments said to me that he wasn't as educated on the whole thing as he possibly should be. And I was worried that the lack of knowledge about what it takes to have a chicken, raise a chicken, and take good care of a chicken wasn't being brought into the discussion as far as who's holding up the ordinance. Because if he's saying, hey, you're like, I feed my chicken in a feeder, but I go out at 3 o'clock when I get home, or 4 o'clock, and say, hey, girls, how's it going? And I throw them some Cheez-Its on the ground. They eat those. They're not leaving any. And if there are any, the big brown chicken that barks gets them. So, but, I don't feed my chickens that way, and I don't think anybody else that owns chickens currently does either. But his comments said that we don't want people feeding chickens like that. Well, that to me speaks of a lack of education or knowledge on that. And I didn't want that kind of thing to shade the rest of the ordinance, I guess. So those are the things I have to say. And I'm sure a couple other people have things to say. Thank you very much.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question? May I ask a question? Do you know, is there a specified size for a chicken coop? A recommended size for a chicken coop of so many chickens? I would assume there's something.
Well, there's different, like cubic, like cubic feet per chicken or something. I'm sure there's something out there somewhere. My chicken coop is small, and you want to have enough. You don't want to you don't have a great big giant chicken coop and only have a few chickens in it, because they would freeze to death. They're not grouped together in a tight enough space to keep themselves warm. On the other hand, you don't have too many chickens in your little chicken coop, and you can common sense tells you what does and doesn't fit. But the coops that I see out there that are for like 4 to 6 chickens or are small and when you look at them, you'd say, I could fit 6 chickens in there. That's crazy. But they like to be in there, and they like to be snuggled up to each other, like you swaddle a baby, that kind of deal. So I'm sure those requirements are out there. I don't know if, I don't know them by heart. And I tried to make common sense. When we put our coop together, we tried to make it big enough for about 3 chickens, 4 chickens. And then when they're let out of it into the interior run or the exterior run, there's enough room for them all to move around, say 2 to 3 feet per chicken kind of deal. But I'm sure those requirements out there, and I bet you the agricultural department could tell you that more readily. So, and did that answer your question? I don't want to.
Yeah, I'm just thinking from our standpoint, I'm not on this bandwagon, but if
Yeah,
it's
I know.
happening, if you were my neighbor, I would have no problem with it because you've been nothing but polite and you speak with passion and compassion when you're talking about what you've done with your animals for all of these years. I just am the one that says everyone doesn't take care of everything, whether it be their children, their spouse, or their dogs or cats, and potentially chicken in the same manner. And the whole concept of chicken feed being thrown down and chickens eating it, it's because we've all been to Upland Hills Farm and wherever else, and that's what they do, right? Like when you watch TV,
Yeah,
that's what they do.
They have you throw scratch out
Right,
for
so,
a chicken
I mean,
treat.
it's education, right? I've been educated a lot, still not on the bandwagon, but I've been educated, and we just need more of it, and that's why I asked about the size, because
Yeah.
then we can incorporate something like that into our ordinance if it's gonna happen, right? So we wanna be fair, but we also want to be realistic with what we're requesting.
Oh,
So,
no, I
For those
agree.
reasons I asked.
I agree totally. And I think that, for the most part, you guys are doing an excellent job researching and trying to get it and trying to be completely fair and unbiased. And even if you're not on the bandwagon, you're willing to listen, and that's great. I think that the education level is always going to have to continue to rise for all of us. But, I'm concerned in the sense, like, I know that they're formally barnyard animals, and we're bringing them in, and we do want to be fair to our neighbors and anybody else, and we do want to have everything be safe and sanitary for ourselves, our chickens, and our neighbors, of course. We all want that. None of us want to walk around in something like that. But, like, I'm concerned in the sense it's like the rat thing, and I really hesitate to bring it up, but, like, the rat thing is playing on everybody's minds, but nobody's talking about restricting the bird feeder people or making you stop gardening because are you going to come into the people's gardens and say, you didn't pick that fruit, it's rotting on the vine, you're going to get an ordinance because that's rat food, or if you're composting. So gardeners like to compost. What goes into compost? Decaying leaves, vegetable scraps. Okay, those things are composted. You can buy dehydrated chicken manure to put in your compost pile. So, and there's people out in the city that are feeding birds, that are gardening, that are composting, that are creating probably just as much or more of a rat paradise sort of, wonderland than the chickens are. And I keep hating to see that swept up in there, but I feel like if I don't say something, about this, we're going to be overly restricted. And I don't want us to be overly restricted to the point where it's not an enjoyable thing to have this animal in my life. If I had, parrots, would you guys come in and tell me I had to show you that I knew how to take care of parrots? Or if I got ferrets, would you also come in and say you can't have ferrets unless you take a class on having ferrets and prove to us that, that didn't happen? I got cats and dogs. I've had birds before. Nobody's ever asked me to prove that I needed to, know things to take care of them. And in a way, I feel like we're being, and I know it's a new thing, but I just feel like we're being made an example of in some ways when we shouldn't have to be. Am I making sense? Yeah.
And I want to say that, I've reached out to the Michigan State Extension Center is a great resource, and I know Ms. Peltonen is also an aviary expert, and so I believe that Mr. Kingsup has actually talked with her in some of the language and the things. So we are trying to be educated on writing the ordinance and educate our staff, because it's
Right,
new to
yes.
everybody.
No,
So
yeah, no, I agree.
we'll get there.
Thank you. I do appreciate that. Any other questions for me?
Not till you sit down.
Oh, okay.
Thank
Well, I need
you.
to get my steps in, so that's good.
We're on the same team on this.
Is anyone else? Hello.
Joy Wellman, 89 West Elmwood. I also sent an email, and thank you for the responses that I did get. My concerns are, I had a big long list of concerns in my email, are pretty much the same as Maria's. I've had my chickens for about 5 years, and if there's going to, I mean, first and foremost, are the current chicken owners going to be grandfathered in any sort of way whatsoever? Example, I've had, my coop is a big coop. Gave more than a couple Franklins for it. Took a lot of work to get it put together. It's over 200 pounds. It's on brick pavers, so nothing can crawl up underneath it. It's going to cause a big hardship if I have to move it to be 10 feet from a fence. And stuff like that concerns me.
I guess we'll just have to take that into consideration when the ordinance is finalized.
Okay, and like number of chickens, I have more than 6 chickens. I'm not going to just adopt them out. I've had them for years. I can't do that. So stuff like that, it concerns me. So, and I did want to say too that having chickens is not for everybody. In this negative 35-degree wind, yeah, I was out there with them. You can't sit in your house and say, oh, well, they'll be okay for a day. They're not going to be okay for a day. They need their fresh water. They need to be fed. So it's not for everybody. And they don't need heat. Mine have never had heat, ever. And I've never lost one and never had one get frostbite. So they don't need it. So I guess that's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Jeff Gaglio, 1215 Kenilworth. I actually wasn't going to speak, but they're making me speak now. Without Mr. Kingsup here, I was copied in the email he sent out. I received a copy of it. And I'm actually pretty inspired by his email that he sent out, because the original one that was posted on the City of Clawson website, the text description, the originally proposed ordinance, or at least the rough draft of one, most of my remarks tonight were based on that. But then I received the email today, and he's talking about doing a complete and utter rewrite based off of Ferndale's. And it's funny because when I submitted you guys a copy, that's what I based mine off. Ferndale's is really, really good. And it's really fair and balanced between the city and the homeowner. It kind of gives you both power. So there were a few things that I did have. In his email, he stated that he would still consider, he wants to pay more precise requirements on the city on enclosures and cleanup, and also keep enforcement in that area with the city. The only problem I have with that is kind of what Maria already spoke on. I reviewed all the city ordinances today for the city of Clawson as it pertains to animals, and there is nothing in there for any pet owner whatsoever about cleanliness. Dog owners don't have to clean up dog poop. Cat owners, there's no ordinance how often a cat owner has to clean their litter box. So to impose a waste management plan would be unfair. To impose any kind of restrictions that go above and beyond what other pet owners are expected to comply with would actually violate the due process of creating an ordinance. So, that's the only thing I really have to say about that. I want you guys to please keep that in mind when you're developing this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's no one else, we'll close public discussion regarding the chicken conversation and move on to the next item on the agenda. The next item on the agenda is recognition of the Lions Club for their donation to the city. The city received a check from the Lions Club for a kitchen donation to help offset the cost of a new refrigerator in the community room. The Lions Club has always been one of our best service organizations and is always willing to assist the city and schools and citizens whenever they can. And we really want to say thank you for their donation and all that they do here in the city. The next item on the agenda is the presentation and update from Clawson Youth Assistants. And who's here is Youth Assistant members Penny Lubes and Nancy Minkler, and they're going to present an update.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for having us tonight. Clawson Youth Assistance was created in 1964 by the Clawson City Council. We are tri-sponsored by the schools, city, and county. We accomplish everything we do largely through the efforts of volunteers. We have a caseworker, Nancy, who works 2 days a week in Clawson, and secretarial support from the school at 5 hours per week. Volunteers create and manage our programs. We fundraise yearly for our camp program and the trick-or-treat trail and our other family recreation events. We go to the water park, we go to the Tiger game, we go to many family events. We're responsible stewards of our sponsorships, and we stretch them effectively by building relationships and negotiating discounts. Your sponsorship is more than a pass-through. The money goes farther because of our skills and efforts. At Clawson Youth Assistance, our job is to help children and families by strengthening connections. We strengthen the connections within the family and between the family and our community. This mission is embedded in every one of our programs. Everything we do addresses the isolation that weakens children, families, and communities. Together, we change the future. Working with our sponsors, school staff, police, donors, and referral sources, our staff and volunteers bring important threads together to weave a network of long-term prevention. We accomplished 136 hours of volunteer time logged in the last year. At last report, volunteer time is worth about $22 an hour, and so we roughly received $3,000 in-kind donations. We also had 56 community service hours completed by our youth in our community. We have 4 new programs that we brought about: an emergency needs grant program. Our new emergency needs program helps families in crisis with basic needs. This year we donated a $100 gas-only card to a family experiencing a financial emergency with a parent hospitalized in Ann Arbor. We have Operation Homefront. Partnering with Operation Homefront and Dollar Tree, we distributed donations of school supplies and Christmas gifts to Clawson families. We have Adopt a Family. Working with the caring staff at Warby Parker Optical, one low-income family was gifted with food, clothing, and toys at Christmas. And we did begin a yoga program, and I'm going to ask Nancy to talk about our camp program and our yoga program.
There's been a lot of recent science about kids and yoga. Basically, what the science is telling us is that kids who are practicing yoga are more focused. They have less symptoms of ADD and ADHD, and that they are able to regulate their behavior more effectively. So we were very fortunate this year. We partnered with both the elementary schools. We have a yoga teacher. Last fall, she did a class for 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, and currently she's back in both elementaries after school 1 day a week doing a class for 1st and 2nd graders. So we're talking about expanding that a little bit this week. It was a 4-week series, but the teacher, the yoga teacher who is certified in teaching kids yoga, I didn't know such a thing existed, but she did, and it does. And she's talking about doing a series of 6 sessions next year. So hopefully we will be able to grow this and expand it over time. The other thing, we talk a lot about camp, and camp is only one of 6 or 7 of our programs. I like to use it as an example. We sent one kid to Tim Hortons camp up in Ontario. We sent 10 kids to Fun in the Sunday camp here in Royal Oak. We sent one to the Salvation Army Day Camp, and we sent 6 to Camp Skyline, which is a 1-week residential camp. And in doing that, we spent a grand total of $2,185. Now, the reason that number is so low, first of all, is that we've been in existence since 1964, and we've developed some relationships. So between the discounts the camps give us and the in-kind grants and the in-kinds we've negotiated, we spent $2,185. The retail value of those camperships was $5,485. So I use those numbers because I really want you to understand that we aren't just a pass-through, that we take your sponsorship gratefully and happily, but we stretch it. We are good stewards of it. We make it go farther than the lump sum we get from you. And we do that with all your programs. And for me, there's a real return on your investment. There is value added to that money that you sponsor us with. And that's the piece of the equation that I think is really important. Anything else?
Okay. Yes. Well, we're always looking for volunteers. Our board meets the third Tuesday at 5:30 at Baker Community Center. And on our board, I would like to thank Councilman Moffitt for joining us there. And we're starting this year running with fundraising and starting to work on that for programs for 2019. We have youth recognition coming up May 1st at 7 p.m. at Hunter, and you will all receive an invite. And that's how we publicly acknowledge youth in our community, students aged 7 to 17, who have gone above and beyond in school, in their neighborhood, in their family, overcome a barrier, a burden, and haven't been recognized by another program. So we generally average 15 to perhaps 25 students who are recognized, and I think that, again, adds value to our community. The Easter egg hunt is coming up April 13th at 10 a.m. And again, I would encourage you and everybody listening to join us for our board meeting so we can plan more meetings, plan more events, plan more things. We have family education, we have parent education, we have lots of things you can do. You can do a one and done task, or you can plan and organize an event. Did you get it?
That's it. Thank you.
Thank
you for everything that you do in the community. It really does make a difference.
Thank you.
It's one of the things that makes us unique.
Your Honor, I move the request by the Clawson Youth Assistants to hold their annual events be approved as listed.
Support.
Any questions or comments?
You'll have the final dates of all those things sent to us, right? The actual dates, okay. Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Albrecht?
Yes.
Mayor Woolley?
Yes,
Councilmember Milan?
Yes.
Councilmember Moffitt?
Yes.
and the ayes have it, and the motion carries. The next item on the agenda is a presentation from Oakland County Commissioner Penny Lubes.
Hello again.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So glad you're here.
Thank you. I did win the election in November. My term began January 8th when I was sworn in at Oakland County. It's a learning curve for me. Oakland County has many different departments, and what Oakland County did was divide each department under the supervision of a committee. There are 4 committees in Oakland County. I am the chair of one of the committees entitled Healthy Communities and Environment Committee, and in that committee are the departments of Health and Human Services, Department of Public Services, including MSU Cooperative Extension and Veterans Service, Parks and Rec, Area Agency on Aging, Community Mental Health, Oakland Livingston Human Services Agency, Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and the Water Resource Department. The other committee I'm on is entitled Legislative Affairs and Government Operations Committee. And that committee oversees the county executive administration, the legislative lobbyist, the county clerk register of deeds, corporation counsel, human resource department, the deferred compensation and retirement board, the historical commission, SEMCOG, the Oakland County Zoo Authority, Oakland County Art Institute Authority, Regional Convention Authority, classification determination schedules, job evaluation review panel, and the Personnel Appeal Board. I'm also on the Airport Committee, and I'm an alternate for SEMCOG. So I thought my life was busy before. It's busy now. So our committees meet twice a month. The commission as a board meets twice a month. One of the upcoming programs we're having is this week, February 6th, entitled A Youth in Government Day. So all of the schools in Oakland County were invited to the day where they learn and have mock debates and mock sessions about how the county works and what your position in the county is. They'll hear from judges and the sheriff's office and different county officials, and it's a full school day for them there. So next year I hope that Clawson and Troy and Royal Oak will participate. As I represent you, I represent Clawson, half of Troy from 15 Mile to Long Lake and DeQuinder to Adams, and a little piece of Royal Oak around 14 Crooks, Normandy, and on up area. Some of the items that we have been talking about on the board, for example, are water supply system transfer and assignment of certain county interests and easements and rights of way located within chartered townships, or modification of the mandatory 440 work schedule, and approval to waive interest and fees for certain qualified taxpayers through April 30th, improvement authority tax captures, approving a grant for a new playground at Mandy's Place, which is part of Children's Village, reestablishment of a human trafficking task force, and on and on and on. There's many different topics. We have them all. So I hope to be more literate and provide you more specific information the next time I come before you, as I still consider myself in the learning curve in the first month in my work with Oakland County. So I did want to share with you another upcoming event, though not anything to do with Oakland County, but March 21st at Hunter at 6 p.m. is going to be a community resource night. So once upon a time, we brought together all the different groups within Clawson to meet and network with each other. The design behind that is each group does something different, but we didn't know all the groups in Clawson. So it ranges from youth assistance to the Lions Club, to the quilting club, to the acting out kids. All the different groups come. We have dinner and we talk for a couple of minutes about what our group is doing, and that helps build the calendar for the upcoming year, so we're not scheduling events when someone else has their signature event scheduled. So I would invite you to attend that one also. Also with the farmers market, and we've had farmers market meetings. We now have 4 people on our farmers market committee, so if anybody's interested in joining, glad to have you. We are announcing our new Sunday Summer Park Market and Wednesday In-Town Market. So what that means is at the park, we're going to have 5 days, once a month. May 19th is our Flower Day, and the DIA Traveling Museum will be there. The Traveling Museum was scheduled last year, elected, on the day they were scheduled, they canceled, which was a great hardship, but they assure me that they will be there May 19th. Our next market will be June 9th. The theme is Touch a Truck Day. I've contacted our departments within Clawson to bring their trucks and vehicles there. The fire departments responded positively to date, and we'll also have inflatables there. July 14th will be a children's cooking demonstration with inflatables. August 11th is a back-to-school theme with inflatables, and September 8th is our Harvest Day. The Summer Sunday Market continues to be held at Clawson City Park from 9 to 1, and the Wednesday In-Town Market will be held every Wednesday from 3 to 7 at 139 West 14 Mile on the grounds of the Salt and Sugar Company. The markets are your small neighborhood gathering places for everyone, a diversity of local farm products, specialty foods, and other assorted items. We'd love to have you participate. And you'll find flyers around in the city buildings. I'll have more information for you also about the market and the assistance that we're going to need from the city with advertising and a couple of electrical cords and the orange cones. But that's what I have for tonight. Do you have any questions for me? All right, thank you very much. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the consideration of approving the purchase of foul ball netting at City Park. Director Kathy Leanhouse is here to speak about this. We are looking to purchase foul ball netting over at the park to keep the spectators safe, and Ms. Leanhouse has applied for a grant and some additional monies from outside and internal organizations. If you'd like to speak to that. And how did this even come about?
Okay. We have more and more activity at our park, and the way our park is set up, the hardball field is quite close in proximity to the softball field. And with all the sporting activities going on, it's impossible to schedule so that two games are not going on at the same time. And what's happening is foul balls from the hardball field are going over and hitting onto the playing surface of the softball field, and also a lot of people set their chairs up behind the backstop of the softball field to watch the game, so they're not paying attention to the hardball game, they're paying attention to the softball game, and the foul balls are coming over, and it's just, we've had more concern about it voiced by the schools and also by the youth sports leagues. And so we took a look at it, and we got some pricing on getting additional foul ball netting 100 feet down the first baseline, because that's where the major problem or increased risk is, and we're going an extra 60 feet down the third baseline because there are occasions when the foul ball will go over and land on the walking path that goes between the locker room and the hardball field. Obviously, we are not going to be able to stop all foul balls, but I think that this is a good way to minimize the risk in an amount that we can afford and is practical for us to do at this time. I've talked with the athletic boosters and the schools and youth sports, softball and baseball, and also with our men's league, who's been renting from us every summer, and they're all willing to chip in some money for this to keep people safe. We are looking at some other grant opportunities as well, but at this point we need to get this going if we intend to get on the calendar to get the foul ball netting installed this spring. So in order to do that, we have to give a 50% deposit to Carter Crompton,
who has been out several times and has answered a lot of questions from the youth sports leagues regarding this netting and how it's going to help. And so coming before council to get that approval. I have applied for an MMRMA grant, which if awarded would pay a third of what the city's responsibility is, financial responsibility will be for this project. However, we don't know that we're going to get that grant till the end of March, or mid-March, excuse me. So we've also, youth baseball has applied for a grant through Dick's Sporting Goods as well for this project, but again, we don't know till the end of March whether we would get that or not. So we do need to keep moving forward. We've identified it as a risk, and I think having done so, we need to take steps to mitigate the risk as best we can. So that's what we're coming before council to.
So without any help, it would be $11,780.
Correct.
Now, and then there's $1,500 roughly that organizations in the city have
Committed to the project.
So that $11,000 is before any grants from Dick's and/or
Right.
the MM or MA would be put into place.
Right.
So the worst case is roughly $12,000.
And to be clear, so in the memo that was provided to us, the money will be coming from the Friends of the Clawson City Park.
Right, and
account.
that's not the account that covers a stadium field. That's a different account we have where we have raised money through selling brick pavers and different donations to help upkeep our parks. So the money is there. Obviously, as much of it that we don't have to use is the best case scenario, but at least we know the money is there if we do have to. And I just really firmly believe that we've identified this increased risk, and I think we have to do something to, minimize anybody getting injured at our parks. And we don't want to discourage use of the fields either, So our youth softball, girls softball program is growing, and so that means more games are scheduled, and as you all know, our park gets very well used, and so this is just one way to make it safer for all. Any other question?
So as my children are grown, I have not been to the baseball field in several years. But do we have signs up also, like beware there might be balls here? I mean, it seems like.
We do not at this time.
Is that something to look into in addition to the netting, just to say that, I remember people who sat behind the thing, what is that? The
Backstop?
That thing. Yeah. Sitting behind there to watch the pitching and that kind of stuff. But if there was some sort of warning, like, hey, sit here at your own risk because there might be some balls coming. It just seems like it might be something to, in addition to the netting.
That's a possibility.
Be prudent to
It's
put
certainly
up.
not anything that we've discussed in detail. Unfortunately, we have found that you could put signs back to back to back to back everywhere at the park, and somebody would not see it or not read it. But we have not discussed that. I mean, specifically, we could maybe put something on the backstop of the softball field and say, if you sit here, there's an increased risk of a foul ball.
Just to mitigate our potential liability. I
Right.
mean, just to have it out there, just a thought. Yes.
That's something we can certainly look into, and it wouldn't be costly to do something like that.
Okay, cool.
Madam Mayor, I move the purchase of foul ball netting at the city park be approved in the amount not to exceed $11,780.
Support?
Any further questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mayor Woolley,
Yes.
Councilmember Milan,
Yes.
Councilmember Moffett,
Yes.
Councilmember Olbrich.
Yes.
And
you
the
very
motion
much.
carries. The next item on the agenda is consideration of approving the amendments to the 2018-2019 fiscal year budget. Mr. Haberman, would you like to address those?
Yes, I would, Mayor. I'll just, the budget adjustments are basically in three categories. First items in the first 2 pages mainly involve where we've had increased costs, but they're offset by increased fees. In other words, if people are using more water, for example, so our cost for purchasing water goes up, but also our revenues from selling water go up. So we're just balancing out, and so there's an offset. So it's not a negative. We end up actually more positive. The pages 3, 4, and 5 involve our OPEB and our MERS contributions. At the time the budget was done, the pension obligation bonds had just been completed, and so the final costs and transfers of monies back and forth between MERS, as well as setting our current contribution rate, had not been done, and so we've made some adjustments there, and those worked out actually in the positive. We actually had budgeted more than what we actually needed. On the other side, the health care, and this has been always a very difficult thing when you're dealing with Blue Cross. Blue Cross does their contract year is January 1st to December 31st. Our budget year is July 1st to June 30th. So we're doing our projections and setting our budget in July, and our actual premium changes and adjustments occur in December. So these adjustments here are reflecting the changes that were made, that we were made aware of in January. The other item, which is the one that I've had the most questions on, and this involves the changes that we've had in personnel, primarily in the position of the city manager. What we did, because you all have approved a salary range for the new manager, wanted to make sure there was adequate funds in the manager's budget to pay him. And so what we've done is we moved the previous manager out of, in other words, the monies that were allocated for him are now, we've increased the city manager budget to offset and move his salaries into another line. You also had professional services, which are the monies that you're paying me, and their increased cost for the increased hours I did with the finance director, because we lost essentially both positions. And so that's where a lot of those professional things, and what you'll notice is the actual impact, because I was asked this, I believe, last week, on the actual fund balance. In other words, the negative hit to the budget is the very first line item under the 101 general fund, and that's the $74,529. So what you're looking at is the difference. At $26,000 is just a transfer from one line within the general fund to another. And then we had some unanticipated or unbudgeted, for lack of a better term, capital expenses. I understand the previous city manager's computer crashed. We had a refrigerator go out, and security cameras, all unanticipated, and so we're making adjustments for those from the appropriate accounts. And the others are transfers within our business accounts: local streets, water, sewer fund, motor pool. We had one change in the because of additional hirings in the police department, and there's a separate memo from the police chief identifying that. That will come from fund balance. And the last one involves the senior apartments furnace replacements that I authorized last week. That money will be coming out of what we call retained earnings. It's a business fund, and so what if we have a surplus in any given year, we have an account we carry called retained earnings, and there's about $78,000 in there. So we'll be taking the $16,000 out of retained earnings because there was no money set aside in that account for this replacement. And that, I believe, completes it, Mayor. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
You need a motion before we ask any questions, Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Madam Mayor, I move the amendments to the 2018 and 19 fiscal year budget be approved as listed.
Support.
Additional questions or discussion in regard to this issue?
So I just want to understand, because I looked at them, and I'm not an accounting person. So what's the net increase in is there a net increase to the spend?
That would be the $74,000.
And that's the only net increase to the spend? Everything else?
On the general fund, yes.
Okay. And the general fund includes the additional cost for the police?
Yes, ma'am.
Interviews? Okay, so just that's the only, all right, I think I get that.
Yeah, keep in mind, when we're talking about fund balance, what I don't want you to think of, first, is that we're talking about the rainy day fund. I mean, typically, that would be the thought, but if you recall in the budget, there was an anticipated $187,000 of revenues over expenditures.
Yeah.
So we'll be dipping into the contingency fund, for lack of a better term.
Okay, so so the budget before showed $187,000 surplus, and now we're at
Around 100,000 or somewhere thereabouts. Yeah, somewhere around 100,000.
All right, okay.
So we're still running in we're still running in the black.
The blue.
I have to think, which is black, blue,
Okay.
whatever color. Not the red.
So, and then during the audit that we sat through last week, the budget audit thing, it came to everyone's attention. It's something that had been approved by the previous council, where $400,000 was borrowed out of the water fund to fix Elmwood properties, and there was a payment schedule that was supposed to have been made, and I spoke to you before the meeting, and it's September of 18, there was it looks like a $37,000 payment that was supposed to be made. And you were going to check, but it wasn't in the budget either.
It's not in the budget, so.
So that's another amount.
What we'll do is we'll create what's called a due to, due from.
Okay.
And what we'll do is it'll be due to water, sewer from roads, local roads.
So
it's just going to be it's just a bookkeeping thing.
And that'll go into, so that'll net zero, right? It's not going to eat into our 113.
Oh, no,
Okay,
it has nothing
okay.
to do with the general
Because it'll be
fund.
taken out of that general fund monies.
No.
and go into the water.
No, it's coming, water is a business account.
Yep.
Streets is not a general fund account. And so it's coming from one non-general fund to another non-general fund.
So it just changes the look
Yeah,
of those.
it just exactly changes the bottom line in each account
Okay.
to reflect the transfer of funds.
Okay,
It's different buckets.
got it.
But keep in mind, they're all non-general funds, so there is no impact on what you think of as the budget, so to speak.
But any work that we need done for the streets needs to come out of the fund that the $37,823 is being taken out of, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that just decreases
Decreases the amount of money for streets,
for
correct.
streets and goes to the water fund.
Yeah, we
All right.
spent street money in advance by borrowing
Borrowing it
from.
from ourselves.
From ourselves.
From the water fund.
From the water fund, yes, which means we have less money to do things, and I hate to say it, but let me, if I may, it's a trite phrase, but we robbed Peter to pay Paul, and now Peter's short of money.
Right. And so because we're paying late, does this interest schedule need to be adjusted?
It's just, again, it's a bookkeeping, it's
Okay.
not
I
going
was just, because the
No,
lady in the audit said that we had to figure an interest schedule
Oh, no,
to make it legal and
we
everything.
need to do the bookkeeping, granted.
Okay.
But it's not since we owe money to ourselves, so to speak, there's no late fees and penalties.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
Anyone else?
That's all I got.
However, if I may, Mayor, add, though, Counselor, you are right, it should have been reflected in the budget. So I'm going to make sure in this next year, at least it's identified in there, so everyone is aware of that the transfer will occur.
Cool.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Milan?
Yes.
Councilmember Moffett?
Yes.
Councilmember Albrecht?
Yes.
Mayor Woolley?
Yes. And the motion carries. The next item on the agenda is consideration of approving the renewal of the video service local franchise agreement with AT&T Michigan, that the agreement will have the effect of continuing in place the current terms and conditions and the uniform video service local franchise agreement between AT&T and the city of Clawson. The original date of this agreement was February 13th of 2009, and it is recommended that the agreement be renewed as presented.
Madam Mayor, I move the video service local franchise agreement with AT&T Michigan be renewed as presented.
Support.
Are there any questions regarding the agreement itself? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Moffett?
Yes.
Councilmember Albrecht?
Yes.
Mayor Woolley?
Yes.
Councilmember Milan?
Yes.
And the motion carries. The next item on the agenda is consideration of the request to hold the employee volunteer picnic at the Clawson City Park. that there was a request to host the employee volunteer picnic at the Clawson City Park, and that it would be held on Thursday, what was the date of that?
June 13th.
13th, is that what it was?
June or July?
June.
June.
Okay.
And request that we approve that.
Your Honor, I move the request to hold the employee volunteer picnic at the Clawson City Park on June 13th at 5 PM be approved.
Support. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Albrecht?
Yes.
Mayor Woolley?
Yes.
Councilmember Milan?
Yes.
Councilmember Moffett?
Yes.
And we're going to have our picnic celebration. The next item on the agenda is consideration of paying the bills.
Madam Mayor, I move the list of bills be approved as listed.
Support.
Were there any additional questions on the bills?
All right.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Woolley?
Yes.
Councilmember Milan?
Yes.
Councilmember Moffett?
Yes.
Councilmember Albrecht?
Yes.
And we're going to pay our bills. The motion carries. The next item would have been the city attorney's report. However, he is not here this evening, so we'll move on to the city manager's report.
I'll make it very brief, Mayor. The last week, I have found I have a city or finance director hat that I lost somewhere along the line. I have been contacted by MDOT. There's a report that was supposed to be filed at the end of the year, which I didn't do because I didn't know we had to file a report with MDOT. So I'm working on getting all that stuff done. I am familiar with a public act that passed after I retired, and that's Public Act 202 of 2017, which has to do with the corrective action paperwork or report that we have to file with the state. We did have a trigger on our pension, but that's not a major thing because the pension obligation bonds were passed. So I'm just waiting for Treasury to contact me on that. I already gathered all the paper together. I'll file the report. It'll have to appear on an agenda for the council to approve so we can submit it to Treasury. And as far as I know, I think that's all the reports. But the way I find out is, unfortunately, I get an email saying, hey, where is this? You know, if you don't do this, you're not going to get any money. So now I find out about a new report. So that's been an interesting learning experience this last week.
Well, thank you for handling those and keep us posted. Is that it?
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
That's short and sweet.
The next item on the agenda is our city clerk's report. Mr. Smith?
Madam Mayor and Council, I do have a few following items to report. The city manager job posting is posted. We have it, Amy Sell put it out on her site as well, of course. I noticed it on ICMA, MML. We did post it on our website as well. We will make sure that everything is out there. If anyone has any questions, they can call us, call Amy Sell. Just a friendly reminder, again, that the city offices will be closed on Monday, February 18th in observance of President's Day. That's a new holiday that was approved for the federal thing, so we'll have notices up so people, again, you can pay water bills online, everything put in the drop box, anything like that. So that's always there. So the picnic is on Thursday, June 13th. Stacy was able to actually secure I guess it's like a mini grant, I guess that's what it's called, through the Oakland County Parks and Recreation to have inflatables there. So that was cheers to Stacy for handling that.
Absolutely.
We also received good news that Service Line Warranty did provide a reimbursement to us for all the residents who signed up in the amount of $6,764.94. We were trying to figure out what that check was from, and we called them and we're like, yeah, that was, I remember they were here and they said that you kind of got that kickback, I guess, 50 cents or whatever it was per person. So thank you to all the residents. That's going back into the coffers, I guess, of the city. I guess with inclement weather, clearly that may or may not hit here as much. I'm not sure. But Victoria and I will be, and I'm sure Mr. Haberman and Mr. Hodges will be all communicating with each other to see if there's any issues, and we'll get that notification, especially if Tringali notifies us of any issues, I'm sure. We'll get that posted on our social media. On a somber note, of course, I wanted to let you know, I've already told you that I will be leaving the city. I will be starting an official job elsewhere on March 11th. Most likely next week will be my last full week with the city. Kind of be in and out of the office the last couple weeks to help with the transition. I will miss my daily interactions with everyone. Being the city clerk, I took a shot in the dark with me 9 years ago. Michelle did, to be her deputy. I've developed many relationships with fellow staff members and residents during my tenure. I feel I've done a lot here. I've learned a lot. Grown together, I think. This is an important time with the city. I hope that you see everything that I've kind of brought up, suggested, ideas, suggestions, whatever it is. So my suggestion is to appoint Victoria as the acting city clerk. I believe that she is very professional, that she can help guide through the process of whatever you decide to do, as it is your appointment. I know she will do an amazing job taking the lessons that she's learned and kind of developing her own process through things. I'll be there for her. Yes, I'll be elsewhere, but I'm a phone call, email away. So she's been a great addition to the city, and I hope she's treated well in this transition. Of course, compensated as such. She deserves it. She's really dedicated to the job, and really she's impressed me over the last year and a half. So I hopefully with you as well. So I just want to thank you for the wonderful opportunity that I've had. I will be hitting my 9-year anniversary on the 15th, so it's kind of that bittersweet moment. But I've had to do what's best with my family, and it's closer to home now. So thank you again for having the opportunity to serve this community.
I want to say just thank you for your hard work and dedication and professionalism. Very sad for us as a community, as a council, but very excited for you in this new opportunity, and I understand. But again, I'm going to feel sad for me more than I'm excited for you. But congratulations.
Thank you. Yes.
Well deserved. You've done great things and really identified solutions when people hadn't even identified the problem. And so you've just been proactive throughout your tenure here. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate that.
Support.
Support?
Thanks. Sorry to bring it down, but yeah.
I wasn't sure that you were going to go there this evening.
Oh, I had to. But this may or may not be my last official meeting, so I wanted to say thank you to the residents and to you as well in council. So
thank you very much for all of your hard work. Mm-hmm. I hate to even move on, but unfinished business, do we have any of that? Well, I guess on to new business. I wanted to mention that some of the things that we've got going on at the library, they have a coloring party coming up on Wednesday, February 13th from 6 to 8. They're going to provide black and white drawings, colored pencils, and markers to provide some inspiration. Wednesday afternoon book club is the third Wednesday of every month from 1 to 2. The Wednesday afternoon book club meets. We will be reading on 2/20/19 to the end of June, The Intimate Life of American Foster Care by Chris Beam. There's an American Girl Friendship Bracelet Fun. They join them for a fun craft program to learn how to make friendship bracelets using embroidery thread. Make one for your doll or one for yourself. Suggested age is from 7 and up, and that is Saturday, February 9th from 10:30 to 11:30 at the library. Pause to Read will be on Wednesday, February 13th as well, from 4 to 5:30. Come to the library to read to a dog. Their favorite certified therapy dogs love to be read to, so pick out a book to read to a furry friend. You need to sign up for a 10-minute time slot at the library or give them a call by phone. And then I did want to also mention that the Parks and Rec is offering a mother-son jungle party, and that is Saturday, March 23rd. It's $20 per couple and $5 for each additional son. It's a special event for moms and their boys. It includes light refreshments, a photo memento, and an exciting visit from Mark Rosenthal's Animal Magic. So buy your tickets in advance at Hunter Community Center. That's what I have. Anyone else? Okay. Let's open up the floor for public discussion. Any comments or questions from the... Okay. Public discussion is now closed.
And Mayor, move we adjourn the meeting?
Support.
all right.
Roll call, please.
You okay? I'm calling you first. I just want to make sure you're okay.
Oh, I'm good.
Okay. Councilmember Milan?
Yes, I'll say yes to that.
Councilmember Moffitt?
Yes.
Councilmember Albrecht?
Yes.
Mayor Woolley?
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening and stay safe.